episode 127 of the podcast. You titled it Build Immunity Beyond the Obvious. And of course, that was the main topic of your live class or live session. So, where do you want to start this one?
Well, it's interesting. We had people in the community asking me to do things on immunity, on meditation, on breathing. And it's amazing. Nobody wanted to hear about herbs for immunity or diet. Somebody had said, "Can you give us immunity beyond the obvious?" And that triggered something in my mind. I got really excited and I thought, well, that's yoga science. And yoga science is the core of all my work, you know, and the practices of yoga science. And so I said, well, how can I really talk about immunity? So it got me very excited. And I thought about it, and I thought about it from the perspective of the mind, right? We always talk about training our mind because the energy of our mind is the essence of our life. Well, right now, the virus of the mind is fear. We have this fear going on and also greed that comes out of the fear. Because as soon as we start hoarding things, greed comes into play. So our mind is getting taken over by these viral problems. So what is immunity? When we talk from a scientific perspective, it's to resist a particular toxin or infection, right? That's what immunity is. But we're not really talking about, this is where it's not obvious, the infection of the mind. What are we infecting our minds with? We're infecting our minds with fear, greed, and anger. Let's say fear being the basis of everything. So I said, oh, well, let's look at it from that perspective. Our ego, our ahamkara, we call it in Sanskrit, is our I amness. And people think, well, I'm smarter than you, I'm better. Oh, look what that person's doing. That person shouldn't be in their car. They should be in lockdown. We're always pointing our nose somewhere else instead of bringing our nose back to ourselves. And what we do is we create disharmony in the mind. Our ego creates this disharmony, which allows the immune system then to get weakened. And it breaks down and allows the alien, I call it, that viral alien to come in and take over. We could control our situation. Now, I'm not saying don't have good hygiene, because a balanced mind has good hygiene. But a balanced mind doesn't allow anger, animosity, and fear to enter. And that's been the work for the last 20 years I've been doing with telling people meditate with me. Come and meditate, learn. Let's meditate together so that we could start clearing the mind field. And then, of course, I don't eliminate diet or herbs or any of that. It all comes to the same place. And that's really what I meant when I said, let's go beyond the obvious. What virus do we have in our minds right now that's allowing this COVID-19 to live? We're supplying it. We're not even aware of it. We're not even aware that our thought that we have today gets put out into the universe and affects everyone. That's why we have to pay attention, cleaning and doing our own housekeeping of our own mind. And that's where the energy of the mind that creates our life, is the essence of our life, comes to play. And that's what it was all about. It's beyond the obvious because people are not relating. And then the other question came up, well, how do we do it? How do we get from that place? Breath. So I'm doing this Thursday. I was talking to you about it. This Thursday, I'm going to put together a class that everybody's been asking me to do. How can we create that protective shield, utilizing our own breath, our own pranic field, our own energy field, so that we don't succumb to all of the things that are going to create a weakened immune system?
The other thing that's worth mentioning that you discussed is also not obvious, is that we tend to focus just on the immunity part, and as you described, immunity is a product of multiple things, not just immunity. In the Western culture, we tend to deconstruct things and look at, can we fix immunity? Well, immunity consists of all these other things that you always talk about.
Well, it's interesting you said that, because when then you go into the supermarket or the pharmacy, all these immune enhancers are off the shelves. You can't find that. People are not looking at the whole picture of what immunity is. We have a skin and we have a digestive system. Their skin is a protective coating so that pathogens don't come into our body. The digestive system works the same way. It's the skin going within, because our digestive system is really, it's to the outside, right? We bring an external alien, our food. So if we don't digest correctly, we don't get the nutrients that we need. You'd agree with that. Western science agrees with that. Even though Western science doesn't know too much about ego and the makings of the ego, they do understand that negative emotions create disease. So, if we're not digesting our food, we get sick. We get weakness because we don't have the minerals and nutrients we need for immune function. But if we don't digest our emotions, right? When you have anger, fear, animosity, greed, any of those, they're undigested. It's undigested matter. Undigested matter creates sludge in the system, and our immune system gets weakened. So it's exactly what you're saying. It's not about just going getting vitamin C, zinc, any of the homeopathics. Everybody's flooding themselves with that without the clear understanding and the workings of the mind. The workings of the mind is what got us here and is what is going to get us out if the workings of the mind are programmed correctly.